Have you ever felt stuck, like you're trying really hard but not getting anywhere with your goals? Maybe you want to read more, exercise consistently, or just feel better about your daily routine. It's a common feeling, and frankly, it can be pretty frustrating. We often believe that to make big changes, we need to take huge, dramatic steps. We think we have to overhaul our lives completely, but that idea itself can be overwhelming and often leads to giving up before we even start. This is where the wisdom of James Clear and his incredible book, Atomic Habits, comes in. This book isn't just about making small changes, it's about understanding the deep, underlying mechanisms of behavior and how tiny shifts can create monumental results over time. It's a game changer for anyone who has ever struggled to build good habits or break bad ones. In this series, we're going to dive deep into 20 life-changing lessons from Atomic Habits. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are practical, actionable strategies that can help you transform your approach to daily life, your goals, and ultimately, your identity. We'll explore how these principles can be applied to almost any area where you want to see improvement. So if you're ready to stop feeling like bad habits and inconsistency are winning, and instead start building the life you want, stick around. This journey is for you, the viewer, who is seeking to improve your habits and life. Let's kick things off with the first two powerful lessons. Lesson number 1 is simple yet profound. Get 1% better every day. This idea is a cornerstone of the entire Atomic Habits philosophy. It challenges the common belief that significant progress requires massive, sudden changes. Instead, James Clear argues that true, lasting transformation comes from small, consistent improvements. Think about it. If you improve by just 1% each day, by the end of a year, you'll be 37 times better than you were at the start. That's not a small difference. That's exponential growth. The opposite is also true. If you get 1% worse every day, you'll almost disappear by year's end. Let's use an example. Imagine you want to read more. Your goal might be to read an entire book a week. That sounds great, but it's a big leap if you currently read almost nothing. The 1% better approach would be to start by reading just 1 page a day, or maybe 5 minutes. It seems insignificant, right? But the act of consistently picking up the book, even for a short time, builds the habit. It makes reading a part of your daily routine. Over weeks and months, those single pages add up to chapters, then books. And more importantly, you've established the habit without feeling overwhelmed or like you're failing if you don't hit a huge target every day. The focus isn't on the outcome, finishing a book, but on the process of becoming a reader. This small, consistent effort creates a compounding effect that few people truly grasp. This leads us directly to lesson number 2. Your habits reflect your identity. This lesson shifts our focus from what we want to achieve to who we want to become. Most of us chase outcome-based goals. We say, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to write a book. These are good goals, but they don't address the underlying identity that drives our actions. James Clear suggests we should focus on identity-based habits. Instead of saying, I want to read a book a week, you should say, I am a reader. Instead of, I want to run a marathon, you say, I am a runner. When you adopt an identity, your actions naturally align with that identity. If you see yourself as a reader, you'll naturally pick up books. If you identify as a healthy person, you'll make healthier food choices and find ways to be active. It's a powerful internal shift. Let's go back to our reading example. If you tell yourself, I am a person who reads, then reading becomes less about a chore to achieve a goal and more about living up to who you believe yourself to be. This approach provides sustained motivation and effectiveness because your happiness isn't tied to an external outcome, but to the continuous process of becoming the person you aspire to be. It's about building a system where your habits reinforce your desired identity, creating a positive feedback loop. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Now, let's dive into the mechanics of how habits actually work, because understanding this is crucial for the viewer to truly master their own behavior. This brings us to the core concept of the entire book, the habit loop. James Clear breaks down every habit, good or bad, into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Think of it as a continuous cycle that your brain follows to automate actions. Once you understand this loop, you can start to intentionally design your habits instead of just letting them happen to you. First, there's the cue. This is the trigger, the piece of information that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. It's what signals that a reward is nearby. The cue could be anything: a specific time of day, a location, a sound, a particular emotion, or even other people. It's the initial spark that sets the whole process in motion. For example, the notification sound from your phone is a cue. Next comes the craving. This isn't about desiring the habit itself, but rather the change in state it delivers. You don't crave checking social media. You crave the feeling of connection or the distraction it provides. You don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the relief it offers. The craving is the motivational force, the desire for the reward that the habit promises. It's the anticipation, the feeling of wanting something. When you hear that notification sound, your craving is the urge to know what it is, to see who messaged you. Then we have the response. This is the actual habit you perform, whether it's checking your phone, going for a run, or biting your nails. The response can be a thought or an action. It depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If the response is too difficult, you won't do it. So, following the notification cue and the craving to know, your response is picking up your phone and opening the social media app. Finally, there's the reward. This is the end goal of every habit. The reward satisfies the craving and teaches your brain that this particular action is worth remembering and repeating in the future. Rewards serve 2 purposes. They satisfy you, and they teach you. The satisfaction of seeing a new message, a like on your post, or just scrolling through endless content is the reward. This feeling of satisfaction makes you more likely to repeat the entire loop the next time you encounter the cue. So, let's put it all together with an example. Checking social media. The cue is your phone buzzing with a new notification. Your craving is the desire to know what it is, the fear of missing out, or simply a need for distraction. Your response is picking up your phone, unlocking it, and opening the social media app. The reward is seeing the notification, scrolling through your feed, and getting a hit of dopamine from new information or social validation. This entire loop happens so quickly and automatically that most people, including the viewer, don't even realize it's happening. It's a powerful, unconscious process. Now that we understand the habit loop, we can apply this knowledge to build good habits and break bad ones. For building good habits, James Clear offers 4 simple rules directly linked to the habit loop. To make a habit stick, you need to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. To make it obvious, you need to make sure the cue is visible and unavoidable. If you want to drink more water, leave a water bottle on your desk. If you want to practice guitar, leave it out in the living room. Make the cue impossible to ignore. To make it attractive, you need to increase your craving for the habit. This can be done through temptation bundling, where you pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. For example, only listen to your favorite podcast while you're exercising. Make the habit appealing. To make it easy, you need to reduce the friction of the response. The less effort required, the more likely you are to do it. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat healthier, pre-chop vegetables for quick meals. Make the habit simple to perform. And finally, to make it satisfying, you need to ensure the reward is immediate and enjoyable. Good habits often have delayed rewards, which makes them hard to stick to. Find a way to give yourself an immediate, small reward after completing the habit, like checking off a box on a habit tracker. Make the habit feel good right away. The inverse is true for breaking bad habits. To eliminate a bad habit, you need to make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. To make it invisible, remove the cue. If you spend too much time watching TV, put the remote in a drawer or unplug the TV. If you snack too much, don't keep unhealthy food in the house. Get rid of the triggers. To make it unattractive, reframe your craving. Associate negative feelings with the bad habit. Think about the long-term consequences. If you want to stop smoking, focus on the damage it does to your lungs and appearance, not the temporary relief it provides. Make the habit seem unappealing. To make it difficult, add friction to the response. Make it harder to perform the bad habit. If you waste time on social media, delete the apps from your phone and only access them through your computer, which takes more effort. Create obstacles, and to make it unsatisfying, ensure there's a consequence for performing the bad habit. This could be a financial penalty, or telling a friend who will hold you accountable. Make the bad habit feel bad immediately. By understanding and consciously manipulating the habit loop using these 4 simple laws, the viewer gains immense power over their actions. It's not about willpower. It's about environmental design and understanding human psychology. This deep understanding of the habit loop and its manipulation for both building and breaking habits brings us to a crucial point often overlooked by the viewer: the difference between immediate gratification and delayed happiness. Many people, including the viewer, chase the high of immediate rewards, often at the expense of long-term satisfaction. This leads to a cycle where goals are abandoned because the payoff seems too far away. James Clear stresses the importance of finding joy in the present process, rather than constantly deferring happiness to some future outcome. This leads us directly to Lesson 4, which is, be happy now, not later. It's a common trap to think that happiness is something you earn only after achieving a big goal. I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds. Or, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. This mindset is incredibly dangerous because it makes the journey feel like a struggle, a means to an end, rather than an enjoyable experience in itself. If the viewer is constantly waiting for a future reward to feel good, they are much more likely to give up when the going gets tough. The brain is wired for immediate rewards, and if the only reward is a distant, abstract goal, motivation will dwindle. Instead, the focus should shift to enjoying the process of building the habit itself. Find pleasure in the small victories, the daily, consistent effort. If you are trying to write a book, don't just dream about the finished product. Enjoy the act of writing each sentence, each paragraph. If you are learning a new skill, appreciate the small improvements you make each day, rather than waiting until you are a master. This present moment happiness acts as a powerful motivator, ensuring the viewer doesn't abandon their goals because the journey feels too long or too hard. It reinforces the idea that the process itself can be the reward. Building on this idea of finding joy in the present, we move to Lesson 5. Small steps lead to big changes. This lesson reinforces the core principle of atomic habits, that significant life-altering progress doesn't come from massive, sudden overhauls, but from consistent, tiny actions. Imagine trying to walk across a vast desert. If you focus only on the distant horizon, the task seems impossible, overwhelming. But if you focus on taking just one step, then another, and another, you eventually cover enormous distances. Each step, though small, contributes to the overall journey. This is precisely how habits work. The viewer often underestimates the power of these seemingly insignificant actions. They might feel that 5 minutes of reading a day isn't enough to make them well read, or that a few push-ups won't make them fit. But these small steps, compounded over time, create monumental change. Think about role models you admire. Did they achieve their success overnight? Almost certainly not. They likely built their expertise and accomplishments through years of consistent, often unglamorous, small actions. A famous musician didn't pick up their instrument one day and become a virtuoso. They practiced scales, learned chords, and spent countless hours perfecting their craft, one small session at a time. A successful entrepreneur didn't launch a multi-million-dollar company with a single brilliant idea. They made small decisions, learned from tiny failures, and built their business brick by brick. These role models embody the truth that sustained progress is the result of many small, repeated efforts. The viewer needs to internalize this concept. Consistency in small steps is infinitely more powerful than sporadic, grand gestures. It's not about how much you do in one day, but about doing something, however small, every single day. This steady, incremental approach is what truly transforms lives and allows the viewer to build the future they envision, one atomic habit at a time. It's about understanding that the path to success isn't a sprint, but a marathon of tiny, deliberate movements. This steady, incremental approach is what truly transforms lives and allows the viewer to build the future they envision, one atomic habit at a time. It's about understanding that the path to success isn't a sprint, but a marathon of tiny, deliberate movements. Continuing this thread, we arrive at the critical role of rewards and triggers in solidifying these small actions into unbreakable habits. James Clear emphasizes that while the process itself can be rewarding, the brain still craves tangible satisfaction to truly cement a behavior. This brings us to Lesson 6, the power of rewards. Rewards are the fuel that keeps the habit engine running. When the viewer completes a good habit, a reward, even a small one, signals to the brain that the action was worthwhile and should be repeated. This immediate gratification is vital because, as we discussed, many good habits have delayed outcomes. For instance, eating healthy today won't immediately make you lose weight, but a small, immediate reward, like the satisfaction of checking off a task on a habit tracker or a moment of quiet reflection, can bridge that gap. The viewer needs to consciously design these rewards into their habit loops. It's not about grand celebrations every day, but about finding simple ways to acknowledge and reinforce positive behavior. This could be anything from a special cup of tea after completing a morning workout to allowing yourself a few minutes of guilt-free browsing after finishing a difficult work task. The key is that the reward must come after the habit, creating a positive feedback loop. One powerful application of this is building a streak. Many apps and habit trackers leverage this concept. When the viewer sees a continuous line of completed habits, it creates its own reward. The desire not to break the streak becomes a powerful motivator. This visual representation of consistency provides immediate satisfaction and reinforces the identity of someone who sticks to their commitments. The longer the streak, the more invested the viewer becomes, making it harder to skip a day. This immediate, visible progress taps into the brain's desire for instant feedback, making the habit more attractive and easier to maintain long-term. The power of rewards isn't about bribing yourself, but about cleverly using your brain's natural wiring to make desired actions more appealing and sustainable. Following closely on the heels of rewards, we encounter Lesson 7. Triggers are key. Triggers, or cues, are the starting gun for any habit. They are the signals in the environment that tell the brain to initiate a certain behavior. The dual nature of triggers means they can either be a powerful ally in building good habits or a significant obstacle when trying to break bad ones. For the viewer, understanding and manipulating these triggers is a game changer. For good habits, the goal is to make triggers obvious and unavoidable. If you want to remember to take your vitamins, place the bottle directly next to your coffee maker. The act of making coffee becomes the trigger for taking vitamins. If you want to read more, keep a book on your pillow. Seeing the book when you go to bed triggers the intention to read. Conversely, for bad habits, the strategy is to make triggers invisible. If the viewer finds themselves mindlessly scrolling on their phone, the trigger might be the phone itself being within arm's reach, or the notification sound. By putting the phone in another room or turning off notifications, the trigger is removed, making the bad habit less likely to occur. The environment is constantly sending us cues, and most of the time, we respond to them unconsciously. By becoming aware of these triggers, the viewer gains control. They can design their environment to work for them rather than against them. It's about being proactive in shaping the spaces they inhabit, making it easier to do what they want to do, and harder to do what they don't. This active management of triggers is a fundamental step in mastering habit formation. A brilliant technique that combines the power of triggers with the ease of existing routines is called habit stacking. This concept involves linking a new habit to an existing one. The structure is simple. After current habit, I will new habit. For example, if the viewer wants to start meditating, they could say, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The existing habit acts as the reliable trigger for the new habit. This method significantly reduces the mental effort required to start a new behavior, because the trigger is already embedded in the daily routine. The viewer doesn't have to remember to do something new. They just have to remember to do it after. Something they already do automatically. This makes the new habit feel less like an additional chore and more like a natural extension of their day. Habit stacking is an incredibly effective way to weave new, positive behaviors seamlessly into life, making them feel less daunting and more achievable, especially when combined with the immediate satisfaction of rewards. This powerful combination of rewards and triggers, especially when applied through habit stacking, leads us naturally to Lesson 8. Consistency is all you need. It's easy for the viewer to get caught up in the idea of big, dramatic changes, but James Clear emphasizes that the true magic lies in the relentless, often unglamorous, act of showing up every single day. The amount of time spent on a habit is far less critical than the consistency of performing it. 5 minutes of reading every day is infinitely more impactful than 2 hours once a month. The brain learns through repetition, not intensity. Each time the viewer performs a habit, they are casting a vote for the type of person they want to become. These votes accumulate, slowly shaping their identity. Think about it like this. If the viewer wants to be a writer, writing for just 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, is more effective than waiting for a large block of uninterrupted time that might never come. Those small, consistent sessions build momentum, reinforce the identity of a writer, and make the act of writing feel natural and expected. Inconsistency, on the other hand, allows the antagonist, bad habits, inconsistency, to creep back in. Skipping a day here or there might seem harmless, but it erodes the habit loop and weakens the neural pathways associated with the desired behavior. The real progress isn't made in the grand gestures, but in the quiet, daily commitment. It's about building a rhythm, a routine that becomes non-negotiable. The viewer must understand that consistency isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up even when they don't feel like it, even when the results aren't immediately visible. This unwavering dedication to the process is the bedrock upon which all significant achievements are built. It is the steady drip that eventually carves stone. Following this principle closely, we arrive at Lesson 9. Track your progress. While consistency is the engine, Tracking is the dashboard that tells the viewer if they are on the right road and how fast they are going. Monitoring habit progress is not just about accountability. It's a powerful motivational tool that feeds into the brain's desire for immediate satisfaction and visual confirmation. When the viewer sees a visual representation of their consistent effort, it provides a sense of accomplishment and reinforces the positive feedback loop. It transforms an abstract goal into a tangible record of success. There are many simple, effective methods for tracking progress. The most common is a habit tracker, which can be a simple calendar where the viewer marks an X for every day they complete a habit. Seeing a long chain of X's creates a powerful visual incentive not to break the chain. This method is incredibly satisfying and makes the abstract concept of being consistent feel concrete. Other methods include using digital apps specifically designed for habit tracking, journaling about daily progress, or even just keeping a tally in a notebook. The specific method isn't as important as the act of tracking itself. The key is that the viewer has a clear, visible record of their efforts. Tracking provides several benefits. First, it makes habits obvious. When the viewer has to physically mark down their progress, they become more aware of whether they are performing the habit or not, which helps to combat unconscious inaction. Second, it's inherently motivating. Nobody likes to see an empty square on their tracker, especially when there's a long streak of completed habits preceding it. The desire to maintain the streak becomes a powerful force, encouraging continued effort. Third, tracking offers immediate gratification, which is crucial for habits with delayed rewards. The act of checking off a completed task or adding another X to the calendar provides a small, satisfying dopamine hit that reinforces the behavior. Finally, tracking provides valuable data. Over time, the viewer can look back at their progress and identify patterns, understanding what contributes to their success and what causes them to stumble. This self-awareness allows for adjustments and improvements, making the habit-forming process more efficient. James Clear emphasizes that tracking isn't about perfection, but about increasing self-awareness and providing a gentle nudge towards continued consistency. It's a tool to keep the viewer engaged and moving forward, ensuring that those small, consistent efforts eventually lead to significant, lasting change. This deep engagement with tracking and the continuous feedback loop it provides leads us directly into a crucial understanding of how progress truly unfolds, bringing us to Lesson 10. Don't judge your progress too soon. It's easy for the viewer to feel discouraged when immediate dramatic results aren't visible, especially after diligently applying the principles of consistency and tracking. However, James Clear introduces the concept of the plateau of latent potential, a powerful metaphor that explains why effort often seems to yield no results for extended periods before a sudden breakthrough moment. Imagine an ice cube sitting on a table in a room where the temperature slowly rises from 25 to 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing happens. The ice cube remains solid. But then, as the temperature ticks up to 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. The critical threshold has been crossed. All the previous temperature increases, though seemingly unproductive, were necessary to reach that point. Habits work in a similar way. The viewer might put in consistent effort for weeks or even months, seeing minimal change. This can be incredibly frustrating. The antagonist, bad habits, inconsistency, whispers doubts, suggesting the effort is pointless. But what the viewer is experiencing is the accumulation of small, almost invisible improvements, much like the rising temperature. Each consistent action, each completed habit on the tracker, is like a single degree of temperature increase. The true impact of habits, like compound interest in finance, reveals itself not linearly, but exponentially. The initial gains are small, almost imperceptible, but as these small improvements build upon each other, they eventually reach a tipping point. This is when the breakthrough happens, when the viewer suddenly sees significant results that seem to have appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere, of course. It was the culmination of all those seemingly insignificant daily efforts. The key is to trust the process, to continue showing up, even when progress feels slow or non-existent. The viewer must resist the urge to abandon good habits simply because the rewards aren't immediate. Patience and persistence are vital during this phase. The plateau of latent potential teaches the viewer that success is often delayed, but it is rarely denied to those who remain consistent. It's about understanding that the seeds planted today will bear fruit tomorrow, but only if they are watered consistently. This long-term perspective is essential for sustained growth and for overcoming the natural human tendency to seek instant gratification. This understanding of non-linear progress naturally steers us towards Lesson 11. Systems are more important than goals. Many people, including the viewer in their past struggles, fall into the trap of focusing solely on goals. They set ambitious targets. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a book. I want to run a marathon. While goals can provide direction, James Clear argues that successful individuals, and indeed successful organizations, prioritize building effective systems. A system is the collection of daily processes and habits that lead to a desired outcome. For example, if the goal is to write a book, the system is the schedule for writing each day, the process for editing, and the routine for generating ideas. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. If you want better results, forget about setting goals. Focus on your system instead. This is a profound shift in perspective for the viewer. If a tennis player's goal is to win a tournament, their system is how they practice, how they manage their diet, and how they recover. If the author example's goal is to publish a best-selling book, their system involves their daily writing routine, their research methods, and their strategies for overcoming writer's block. The goal is a single point on the horizon. The system is the entire journey. The problem with focusing exclusively on goals is that they can create a yo-yo effect. Once a goal is achieved, there's often a feeling of emptiness or a reversion to old habits because the underlying system hasn't changed. For instance, if the viewer's goal is to lose 20 pounds, they might achieve it through intense, unsustainable efforts. But without a sustainable system of healthy eating and regular exercise, they are likely to regain the weight. In contrast, if the viewer focuses on building a system of healthy eating and consistent exercise, the outcome of losing weight becomes a natural byproduct, not the sole focus. The real victory is not achieving the goal, but becoming the type of person who consistently follows the system. Furthermore, focusing on systems helps the viewer maintain momentum even when they haven't yet reached their ultimate goal. If the author example's goal is to write a book and they haven't finished it yet, they might feel like a failure. But if their system is to write 500 words every day and they consistently meet that system, they can feel successful each day, regardless of the book's completion status. This daily sense of accomplishment is crucial for long-term motivation and for navigating the plateau of latent potential. Systems provide a framework for continuous improvement, ensuring that the viewer is always making progress, even if the final destination seems far away. It's about falling in love with the process, not just the product. This deep focus on systems, on the process rather than just the outcome, gives the viewer a powerful tool for navigating the ups and downs of habit formation. It brings us to Lesson 12. Something is better than nothing. This principle is incredibly freeing, especially when the antagonist, bad habits, inconsistency, tries to convince the viewer that if they can't do a habit perfectly or for a significant amount of time, there's no point in doing it at all. James Clear argues against this all-or-nothing mindset. He emphasizes that the mere act of showing up, even for a very short period, maintains the identity of being a person who performs that habit. For instance, if the viewer has a goal to exercise for an hour every day, but one day they only have 5 minutes, the "something is better than nothing" rule encourages them to do those 5 minutes. It might feel insignificant, almost pointless, but the psychological impact is profound. By doing those 5 minutes, the viewer reinforces the habit loop, tells themselves that they are still an exerciser, and prevents a complete break in their routine. If they skip entirely, it's easier to skip the next day and then the next, leading to a downward spiral. The goal isn't always about the physical output in that moment, but about maintaining momentum and reinforcing the desired identity. A single push-up is better than no push-ups. Writing one sentence is better than writing no sentences. Reading one page is better than reading no pages. This lesson is particularly crucial for overcoming perfectionism, which often acts as a silent killer of good habits. The viewer might think, if I can't meditate for 30 minutes, there's no use starting. This thought process is a trap. The true power lies in consistency, even when that consistency means doing a minimal version of the habit. It's about building the habit of showing up, regardless of the circumstances. This approach makes habits more resilient because it lowers the barrier to entry. When the viewer feels tired, stressed, or short on time, they don't have to abandon their habit entirely. They can simply scale it down to its smallest possible version and still feel successful for having done something. This small win prevents the feeling of failure that often leads to throwing in the towel completely. It's a powerful counter to the antagonist's attempts to derail progress. This emphasis on continuous, even minimal effort naturally leads us to Lesson 13. Never miss twice. Life happens. The viewer will inevitably miss a habit. They'll forget to meditate, skip a workout, or fail to write for a day. This is a normal part of the process, and it's where many people, in their past struggles, would give up entirely. However, James Clear provides a critical strategy for recovering from these setbacks. Never miss twice. The first missed habit is an accident. The second missed habit begins a new, undesirable pattern. If the viewer misses a habit on Monday, the most important thing they can do is ensure they perform that habit on Tuesday. This prevents a single slip-up from becoming a full-blown relapse. It's about damage control and quickly getting back on track. The never miss twice rule builds resilience into the habit-forming process. It acknowledges that perfection is impossible and unnecessary for long-term success. What matters is the ability to recover quickly. Just as a single bad meal doesn't ruin a diet, a single missed habit doesn't ruin a system. It only becomes problematic when that single miss turns into 2, then 3, then a complete abandonment. For the viewer, this rule provides a clear action plan for when things go wrong. Instead of dwelling on the missed habit and feeling guilty or defeated, they can immediately shift their focus to ensuring the next instance of the habit is completed. This proactive recovery strategy reinforces the desired identity. If the viewer misses a workout, they don't suddenly become someone who doesn't exercise. They become someone who missed a workout but got back to it the very next day. This subtle shift in self-perception is incredibly powerful for maintaining motivation and preventing the antagonist from gaining a foothold. It teaches the viewer that setbacks are not failures, but simply opportunities to practice recovery. The ability to recover quickly from a missed habit is a habit in itself, and it's one of the most important skills the viewer can develop on their journey to lasting change. It ensures that the overall trajectory remains upward, even with occasional wobbles. The ability to recover quickly from a missed habit is a habit in itself, and it's one of the most important skills the viewer can develop on their journey to lasting change. It ensures that the overall trajectory remains upward, even with occasional wobbles. This understanding of recovery and resilience brings us to Lesson 14. Environment is everything. James Clear consistently emphasizes that our environment plays a far more significant role in shaping our habits than most people realize. The world around us, the cues we encounter, powerfully dictate our actions, often without us even noticing. For the viewer, this means taking an active role in designing their surroundings to support good habits and deter bad ones. It's about being an architect of their own life space. If the viewer wants to eat healthier, simply placing fruit in a visible bowl on the counter and moving unhealthy snacks to an opaque cupboard can make a dramatic difference. The visible fruit becomes an obvious cue for a good habit, while the hidden snacks make the bad habit less obvious. Similarly, if the viewer wants to read more, having a book on their bedside table is far more effective than keeping it tucked away in a drawer. The environment acts as a silent hand, guiding their choices. This isn't about willpower. It's about making desired actions easier and undesired actions harder. This principle extends beyond physical objects to the people and digital spaces the viewer interacts with. Surrounding themselves with role models who embody the habits they wish to cultivate can provide powerful social cues and accountability. Joining a study group, a running club, or an online community focused on a shared goal can make habits more attractive and satisfying. Conversely, if the viewer finds themselves constantly scrolling on social media, making their phone less accessible, turning off notifications, or even deleting certain apps, can make the bad habit more difficult and less attractive. The environment isn't just a backdrop. It's a dynamic participant in the habit loop. By consciously shaping their environment, the viewer can tilt the scales in favor of their desired identity and goals, making progress almost inevitable. Understanding how external environments influence us leads to Lesson 15. Know your tendencies. While environmental design is crucial, James Clear also stresses the importance of self-awareness. Each viewer is unique, with their own set of strengths, weaknesses, preferences, and natural inclinations. What works for one person might not work for another. Therefore, aligning habits with one's personal tendencies is key to long-term success. This isn't about forcing oneself into a mold, but about finding the most effective path for their individual makeup. For example, if the viewer is a morning person, scheduling their most important or difficult habits for the early hours of the day will likely be more effective than trying to tackle them when their energy is low in the evening. If they thrive on social interaction, incorporating accountability partners or group activities into their habit strategy will be more motivating. Conversely, if they are easily distracted, creating a quiet, solitary workspace will be more conducive to focused work. This self-awareness means honestly assessing when they have the most energy, what types of rewards genuinely motivate them, and what environments truly support their focus. It's about playing to their strengths and mitigating their weaknesses, rather than fighting against their natural grain. By understanding their own tendencies, the viewer can customize the 4 laws of behavior change, make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, to fit their unique personality, making habit formation feel less like a chore and more like a natural extension of who they are. Finally, all these lessons culminate in Lesson 16, the ultimate purpose of habits. It's easy to get lost in the mechanics of habit formation, the routines, the tracking, the environmental tweaks. But James Clear reminds the viewer that habits are not ends in themselves. They are tools, pathways to something much larger, becoming the person they want to be and achieving their long-term goals. The ultimate purpose of building good habits is not just to check off tasks, but to facilitate personal growth, unlock potential, and create a life that aligns with their deepest values. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Each small, consistent action builds upon the last, leading to profound transformations over time. The viewer who consistently reads becomes knowledgeable. The viewer who consistently exercises becomes healthy. The viewer who consistently practices a skill becomes proficient. These small daily decisions aggregate into the identity they forge. The goal isn't to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. The goal isn't to write a book, it's to become a writer. By focusing on the identity they wish to embody and building systems of habits that reinforce that identity, the viewer moves beyond mere goal achievement to a state of continuous becoming. So, as we conclude our journey through these powerful lessons from Atomic Habits, remember that the power is now in your hands, viewer. You have the blueprint for understanding how habits work, for building good ones, and for breaking bad ones. You have the strategies for consistency, for recovery, and for leveraging your environment and your unique tendencies. James Clear has given you a profound framework. Now, it's up to you to apply these principles, to start small, to be patient, and to trust the process. Embrace the journey of becoming 1% better every day and watch as your life transforms, one atomic habit at a time. The future you envision is built by the small choices you make today.